What's going on, everybody? Blazing here. Welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video, and we're going to be talking about the new event dungeon that is coming back into Raid. Now, I'm kind of excited because I feel like we're either going to be getting a mythical fusion or a new way to summon mythical champions, such as a guaranteed event.
Here he goes again.
I have to agree with him.
I do want to know, which one do you think is more probable that we're getting a mythical champion as a fusion or a mythical guaranteed? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, make sure you click that subscribe and like button. It really helps and I appreciate it. All right, so let's jump into the information we have, right? So the event dungeon, this is going to feature a new mythical champion as the boss, right? A couple of things that we're going to need to know about the boss is she is going to take less damage from HP burns, right? So it's going to be 1% instead of the usual 3% that they take of their max HP. The damage unique to her in the event dungeon role only, right? So only in the boss, as the boss, everywhere else, it's going to be the same. Now, does this have me concerned that HP burns are going to be the ones that are, you know, problematic to not be able to take this boss down? No, I use enemy max HP hitters, right? You have a Gina, you have a Chrysias, you have Marius, you're going to be okay. They haven't nerfed poisons. They actually gave a buff to poisons. So I do feel like poisons could come in here as probably the game changer, especially like a Calvalax with the new relic. So it'll be a pretty interesting to see what happens. She's also going to bring 2 new buffs into the game, and that will carry over from being the dungeon boss as well as, you know, when you acquire her, if you acquire her, or I should say when you acquire her, because again, I think she's the fusion. So she's going to have Fortify, right? Let me just move myself out of here real quick. Put myself over here. There we go. So Fortify. Fortify buff reduces any enemy ignored defense effects by 15 or 25%. Basically, Helm Smasher, gone, right? Savage Gear, gone while this is up. Now we're getting into the situation where relics such as the Cat's Gaze are going to be even more important to ignore the defense, right? To try to get as much damage out. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how this plays out. Shatter. Shatter increases this champion's ignored defense effects by 7.5 or 15%. Now, I will say she brings both the big versions of these, and man, imagine how busted broken this is going to be in almost any area of the game, right? Being able to ignore an extra 15%. I know Trunda teams have had it really, really hard, guys. She's just going to, you know, give you guys a little bit of a boost for Trunda teams, you know, getting that 15% ignore defense added onto it, right? As our good friend Bick would say here, Trunda teams have it really, really hard. That said, I'm kind of excited for this, right? I would love to see, again, they're getting it to the point where it's still always going to be enemy max HP hits, right? G-Nuts are going to be the best farmers for this event dungeon. All right, so let's move into her skill kit here, right? Corosa the Covetos. I think that's how it's pronounced. All right, so the A1, she's a support based, right, on her base form. So attacks all enemies, heals all allies. The value of the heal is proportional to this champion's attack. So I would really love to see, instead of damage, just give us more healing on the A1. If she's supposed to be a support, give us healing. Don't give us attack, right? The A2, anything for Siroth, removes all debuffs from our allies, so we get a full team cleanse, which is great on a 3-turn cooldown. Places an increased attack and a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is proportional to this champion's attack. So she'll self-buff, right, which will give us a more healing on the A1, which is great, and then be able to give us a better shield, right? Now, they didn't tell us the shield is going to be, usually they use, the shield will be proportional to like a Valkyrie type of situation. So they didn't do that here, but I'm curious to see how big her shield can get. Trying to stack attack is usually easier than any other stat, right? Maybe defense, but there's more attack-based champions or more attack-based or ways to increase your attack than there is anything else. So we could get a pretty decent size shield here. The H3 Running Rampart places a taunt debuff and a 25% fortify buff on this champion for 2 turns. Now remember, fortify basically negates the ignored defense. So 25% ignored defense will already be out of there, kind of like Karima's passive, right? Also places an unkillable on all allies except this one for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Okay, so here's the thing. Emic has an unkillable on everybody and places a taunt. Yes, she brings fortify. Emic places a shield. Why couldn't she? I mean, she's a mythical champion, right? She could put the unkillable on herself. It would just make sense, right? I'm just saying, mythical champions are hard to obtain. Should be way better than, a void legendary champion. So I think this right here, they missed out on the opportunity to make it AoE on everybody, including her, especially because even with the fortify, if I'm running 2 or 3 nukers with multi-hitters, then she's still going to take damage, right? She's attack-based. We're not going to build her with HP, so she's going to be much easier to kill than anybody else. Then we've got Collectors of Paw. These are the passives. The passive effect receives 15% less damage for each ally alive. Okay, so based on PvP, we're talking 45%. Hydra, we're talking, 60%, 65%, 70%, right? 75, sorry, 75. Math, I can't do it. Everywhere else, she'll get like a 60%, so pretty solid. But again, stacking this with Fortify, I still don't think with the A3 that she's going to survive, right? Especially if everybody else has unkillable, then, she's going to die pretty early on. The active effect instantly transforms this champion into their ultimate form whenever the last living ally is killed. Now, with this, I feel like once this happens, she'll probably get an extra turn so she can go into her secondary form and do what she's got to do, most likely nuke us. But she's got the provoke, right? Or not provoke, she's got the taunt, she's got the fortify, she's got the unkillable on everybody else. She's gonna die, right? She's not gonna be a go first champion. So it's not like we bring her in to deal with everything else. She's a go second champion, and I'm not sure how I feel about this. Again, the first form, longer fights with a decent support, this could work out well. Increase attack in all battles, 35%, pretty solid. All right, let's take a look at form 2 now, right? This is her attack form, her nuking form. Okay, attacks one enemy 3 times. If this attack kills an enemy, deals pure damage to all other enemies. Pure damage basically ignores defense. There's no damage mitigation behind it. They're just going to take what they're going to take. If other enemies are not bosses or minions, the amount of the pure damage is equal to 30% of the initial target's max HP. Basically, what you want to do with this is if you're going to attack somebody, you want to attack the highest HP person in PvP content. That way, the splash damage is as much as possible. For example, if you hit a Marichka and she's got 100k HP and you kill her, then the splash damage will be based off that. So everybody else will take about 30k, which is usually where some of their nukers are, right? 30 to 40k. That said, if it's a boss, then the boss of the minions, the pure damage dealt to them is equal to 10% of their max HP instead. This attack cannot be critical. So I see this working out pretty nicely in Spider, right? Taking enemy max HP hits, 10% cap. So I kind of like this. I think it's good. It's gonna take a little playing around to figure out who you should be attacking. But I think once you get a good grasp on it, I think it's going to be pretty solid, especially as a triple hitter. All right, the Icon of Havoc. It is a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies. Before attacking, steals all buffs from all enemies, right? We still have that 50% on the Stone Skin part, but everything else we can steal. Targets whose attack is lower than this champion's attack cannot resist this effect. Okay, so now it's irresistible if they have lower attack. So usually on their nukers, they're probably either going to be around the same with you or higher. And if they're in Stone Skin, you know, it's pretty much who's got the highest attack. Everybody else, you're going to be able to steal that Stone Skin. You're going to be able to take those buffs unless they're protected, right? Also places a 25% weaken debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, whose attack is equal to or lower than this champion's. This cannot be resisted. It can be blocked though. So block debuffs can work. Stone Skin can work if they have Stone Skin, right? So overall, the A2 I really like because we're not forced to have to build her with accuracy. And she's already going to be challenging enough, trying to build enough damage, putting her, because ideally we're going to have to try to put her in some sort of nuke set, right? So it's going to be really tough. I think we're looking at like Stone Skin and Lethal or Savage, somewhere of that vicinity, right? So overall, the A2 I really do like. I think it was well designed. I'll say that much. Ruthless Agent places a 15% shatter buff and a 30% increased crit rate on this champion for 2 turns. Now, shatter is what gives us increase to our ignored defense. So she's going to get a 15% ignored defense. And if you have Helm Smasher procs, if you have Savage, if you have a Cat's Gaze on her, or any other sort of ignored defense mechanics or boost to her, that's going to be really well. And you could also build her with less crit rate, right, to take advantage of this. Now, I know that there's a lot of buff strippers currently in the meta, like Marius and stuff. So you could essentially you could get kicked by not doing this properly. Ideally, though, I feel like she's probably going to benefit more from the increased crit rate and trying to stack as much attack as possibly on her because she's getting a lot more benefit from the attack. So I think if I got her, I'd build it with a 70% crit rate and work with it that way. She places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn whose attack is equal to or lower than this champion's attack and cannot resist this effect. So the only champion that I feel like this would not be a problem for would be Fabian, as he can't be hard CC'd, so he'll get cleared from that. Other than that, also grants an extra turn, so you're going into your A3, then either your A2 or your A1, depending on what you currently have going on. Now, her passive, I don't like it at all. Deals 15% more damage for each dead ally. Each critical hit boosts this champion's turn meter by 10% for each dead ally. Here's the thing. She's attack based. She's not HP based, so she's not going to survive. She's got nothing in her skill kit that screams, hey, I'm going to reduce my damage incoming if I go first, or if I don't go first, if I go second. I'm going to be able to get that chance up like a Sigfriend, right? Sigfriend will have the damage mitigation. He'll be able to boost himself back up. He'll put a block damage up, and then he'll instantly transform into his next form and be able to go once everyone else is dead. But he does have that block damage that allows him to get to that point. She doesn't. She just has Fortify and Shatter. Fortify basically, reducing the ignored defense. But at this point, most of us are probably playing with close to 40 to 50% ignored defense on most of our nukers. So it's not going to be a huge thing. We'll have to do some testing when she comes out, but I don't feel like it's going to be absolutely crazy. Now, I do overall really like her second form. I think it's well designed. Except again for the passive, I would love to see it, for each enemy alive, maybe, or for each hit taken on her. Something maybe for each turn an opponent has taken, you get like a 1% damage boost. I think something like that would be a little bit better. Overall, though, I like her. If she's a fusion, I'm definitely going for it. She's a guaranteed. Yeah, I'm going for it. We'll say that much. All right, so Pinpoint is coming back, right? I love Pinpoint. I think it's one of the best gear sets that we have out there, especially anywhere from a 1-piece to 2-piece, even to a 9-piece set, which I think 9-piece set is kind of hard to work with. 8-piece is probably the cap that I would go with, especially because we have champions now that do put intercept buff on us, such as Lamasu, right? She automatically puts 2 stacks on you, so there's no point in building a 9-piece Pinpoint. But an 8-piece, definitely worth doing. So I will be farming this myself quite a bit. I hope you guys are too. And then last but not least, we're getting some new relics into the game. We're getting 8 new relics for the event dungeon group. Chances are it looks like we're going to get 2 mythicals, 1 legendary, probably 2 more epics, and then 3 rares. This is just guessing because based off what they've currently put in game, usually we only get 2 mythicals, 2 legendaries, 3 epics, and then 3 rares, right? Could they do more? Probably. But going by what we have, well, that's probably going to be it. Some of the things that I really want to kind of give you guys a heads up on is these are going to be gated behind events. So double think before you go into an event if you're going to do it or not, because based on what these relics are going to do, they haven't told us yet. They could be pretty busted. I mean, we all see what the new epic or rare relic has done. We know what the Catskade has done. We know some of these relics are just so good that make champions that are absolutely useless be crazy overpowered right now, right? Chaos Awakens is going to be here just around the corner. I'd probably say sometime next week, and I'd be prepared for a new, login champion. I think that's definitely going to happen. Actually, how cool would it be if this Mythical was a free login champion?
You are dreaming, Wellesley.
I think it's more plausible that it's going to be the fusion or a guaranteed, but we're going to get a free new legendary champion. We're going to get a new fusion and a new collaboration. So save your resources, be smart about it. Man, there's going to be so many things to watch out, and we'll be discussing more about this on the podcast. So make sure you guys are tuning in for that. Join us every Sunday, 2 p.m. EST for the Knights of Teleria podcast, where we dive into the world of Raid Shadow Legends, discussing everything from free-to-play strategies to pay-to-win insight, and covering the journey from early to mid-game. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned player, we have something for everyone. Don't miss out on the Knights of Teleria podcast, the only podcast for Raid Shadow Legends. As always, much love, much appreciation. Be safe, be well, be good to each other. I'll catch you guys next time.